Deputy Speaker, and I too want to thank the member for Bolton South East for bringing this debate here today. And listening to all the powerful speeches, it really makes me proud of the Chamber. This is seeing the Chamber at its best, and following the speeches, the powerful speeches of the Right Honourable Lady for Maidenhead, and now to the Right Honourable Member for Kingston and Surbiton. But I'll start by saying how distressing it must be for the women and families harmed by Primodos that they are still having to fight nearly 5 decades on. Their road to justice has been long and cruel, and it is shameful that we find it necessary to be debating this again today. How can it be that the Primodos families are still not being properly supported and compensated after all the evidence that has been presented? Sadly, Primodos is not an isolated case, and we have seen many examples over the years of our regulatory bodies failing to keep patients safe from new medicines and medical devices. In 2013, the MHRA listed 27 medicines withdrawn on safety grounds. The average time they were on the market was 11 years. I wonder how many times we will allow history to repeat itself. There have been reports and reviews that have called for reform, and back in 2004, the Health Select Committee undertook an inquiry into the influence of the pharmaceutical industry and noted the closeness that had developed between regulators and drug companies, which have deprived the industry of rigorous quality control and audit. It also highlighted the MHRA's poor history in recognising drug risks, poor communication and lack of public trust. And in 2020, we heard Dame June Rain, CEO of MRA, stating that her agency had transformed itself from watchdog to enabler. So I ask, has anything improved in the intervening 20 years since the Health Select Committee inquiry? I fear not, and I think the time has come for another inquiry of similar scope and depth, only with more robust outcomes. That's what we want. Robust outcomes. In 2020, the Independent Medicines and Medical Device Safety Review, First Do No Harm, found that in addition to Primodos, sodium valproate and pelvic mesh had all caused avoidable harm. The review showed the patients had been let down and called for significant reforms at the MRHA due to its mishandling of safety concerns. The review was clear that there is gross underreporting of suspected adverse reactions, and the systems are both too complex and too diffuse to allow early signal detection. It's a theme that keeps coming up, and in recent meetings of the APPG on pandemic response and recovery, we heard from Professor Carl Hennigan, who described widespread problems with the reporting of adverse drugs and drug and device reactions, which continue to be a major cause of hospital admissions. As many as 98 out of 100 adverse drug reactions go unreported. The APPG, of which I'm co-chair, was told that the HMRA is running a system that is too slow to act and is beset by conflicts. And failure to act now will only lead to more harm. We also heard from the Solicitor Peter Todd, who is acting for 43 individuals who suffered blood clots as a result of AstraZeneca vaccination. He described how the government's vaccine damage payment scheme is operating poorly and failed to help those who have been injured. So not only is the current system unable to protect patients from harm, it is also failing to look after those who have already been harmed. 3 years on from Baroness Cumberledge's landmark review, the government has not fully implemented its recommendations. In particular, we're still waiting for redress schemes to be set up to meet the costs of additional care and support for those who were harmed by Primodos, sodium valproate and pelvic mesh. Why has that not been done? This is a bleak and worrying situation, so I'll try and end on a more positive note by commending the important work of the member for Bolton South East as chair of the APPG on hormone pregnancy tests. And my final tribute must go to Mary Lyne, whose tireless campaigning on Primodos over the decades has been inspirational. She deserves the full support and respect of this House, and I hope she and others harmed by this drug can finally get justice.
Jeff Smith.